All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again so much for joining us today for our presentation on AI and your job search. My name is Eilish. I am the career advisor here with Career and Professional Development at Art Center. And I'm joined today by my colleagues, Roxanne, Shay, and Alicia. We're all here to support and assist you in all of your creative career endeavors. Today, we are going to be talking, as mentioned, about AI, artificial intelligence, and some ways that you may interact with it as part of your job search process. I'm going to be providing a little bit of info about some of those different ways, how it can be used by employers, how it can be used by job seekers, how to utilize it effectively if you do plan on using it. But I also want this to be a conversation and a place for everyone to ask questions, or throw out ideas if they have them so that we can talk through any questions or concerns that we have. So with that, I would love for you to throw any questions that you have in the chat, or unmute yourself when we get to kind of a natural stoppage point. I'll ask for questions and you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask those questions at that time as well. So with that said, let us get started for the day. So a little overview of what we're going to be covering today. We're going to kind of briefly discuss, generally speaking, what we refer to when we're talking about AI in your job search. We're going to be talking a little bit about how AI has been used or can be used from the employer perspective, as well as how AI can be used from the perspective of a job seeker. Some tips and tricks for effectively utilizing AI as part of your job search process if you do plan on using it. And then finally, we'll just wrap everything up and kind of give some takeaways and some big picture messages to leave the conversation with. And finally, we'll just give out some contact info for CPD and other next steps that you might want to take. So, an overview. Artificial intelligence tools, or AI tools, are becoming more and more common and more intertwined in the job search and hiring process, both in the US and internationally. Again, these tools are going to be used by both job seekers and employers, and they're used or can be used at multiple stages in the search process. And as job seekers, either currently or in the future post-graduation, it's really important to understand how they work, how they're being utilized, and then how to interact with them effectively when you're applying to jobs, internships, opportunities, so that you're making the most out of each application that you send out. So, how are employers utilizing AI? There are a vast majority of ways, but there are two kind of main ways that I want to talk about today, and that I think are going to be the most common for the majority of job seekers in today's market. So the first is something called ATS, or applicant tracking software, applicant tracking systems. Now, ATS are a recruiting software that can be used by employers on the back end that scans your resume for keywords and key phrases from the job description and can effectively filter or rank in the resumes for that particular application based on how well they match the job description. This is something that you might have heard referred to as kind of the bots, or working with the bots, beating the bots as part of your job search process. And that is a pretty kind of accurate way of describing it in a lot of ways, where we really want to make sure that we are effectively creating a resume that is what we would call ATS friendly, that contains a lot of those keywords and phrases from the job description and can be effectively scanned and utilized as part of that process. And I'll be talking a little bit more in just a minute about how we can do that and what we do in that particular scenario. But do know that these ATS, or applicant tracking systems, are utilized very frequently. More than 90% of Fortune 500 companies are implementing an ATS software scan at some point in their hiring process. And many companies that fall outside of that bracket of all sizes are utilizing ATS as part of their hiring process. Typically, you're going to see this happen when you are submitting an online application, as opposed to sending your resume in via email. So for example, if you go to Google's careers page and you fill out an online form where you upload a copy of your resume and your cover letter and fill in all of your information, when you submit send for that application material, it's pretty likely that it might be going through some kind of ATS system, at the very least, to organize it. As such, again, it's important to know how they work and how we can best work within them. Now, the next way that employers might be using AI tools, and that you might want to know about AI tools from the employer's perspective, is through AI-assisted interviews. So AI-assisted interviews are virtual interview scanners that can kind of assess your interview and provide feedback to the recruiter. And these can happen in a couple of ways. The first way is by essentially providing you with a link that you will go to as the interviewee, where you are prompted with interview questions that you'll then record yourself answering and send those out to the interviewer. And then they'll be scanned and reviewed by an AI-based system. And that feedback will be submitted directly to the recruiter so that they can review it. Sometimes what can also happen is that you are meeting with a human recruiter, but your information, your interview answers, are still being scanned or assessed by an AI tool, and that tool is giving the recruiter feedback in real time or after the fact, even though the recruiter is also meeting with you face to face. And these tools are assessing things like your responses, your physical contact or your physical demeanor as part of the interview. There are many, many different points that they're assessing on. And for some companies, they're using this as kind of the first line of interviewing to go through a large pool of candidates to then kind of whittle those or filter those down into a smaller pool of candidates that will then meet with a human recruiter in the next phase. So these are kind of our two big ways that employers are utilizing AI as part of their process. And again, you may interact with both of these or only one of these, but it is really helpful to know going into your job or internship search process that you might encounter these experiences. So knowing that we have these potential interactions going on in our job or internship search, what do we do? How can we make the most use of our experience and these particular kind of opportunities for ourselves? As far as ATS is concerned, or these applicant tracking systems, a few big tips here, and you're going to hear this repeated and reiterated many times throughout this presentation. Utilize the keywords. Analyzing a job description and really understanding the key words and phrases and skills that they are looking for in this particular resume or for this particular job opportunity, and then implementing those in your resume, in your cover letter, etc., is really, really, really beneficial. This will really help kind of ping through that ATS scan that you have the qualifications, the skills, the abilities necessary for that role, and really increases your chances of moving forward through that kind of initial scan or assessment of your resume and into the next phase of the application process. The next suggestion that we have here is tailoring your resume to each position that you apply to. So this is a really, really big recommendation, even outside of the world of, AI job tools. We really recommend tailoring your resume as much as you can, as often as you can, because there are going to be kind of unique qualities, unique phrases, and unique terms in each job description that you're going to want to speak to or tailor your resume for. Even within the same industry or within the same title, these little variances are going to occur. So tailoring your resume to each position is really, really beneficial. When we're talking about ATS specifically, this becomes even more important because tailoring your resume and really going back to our first point, utilizing the keywords and phrases that are present in that individual job description are going to benefit you in the scan on the back end to really demonstrate to a recruiter that you're a good fit for the role. And our third recommendation here is that simplicity works best. So utilizing a simple ATS-friendly version of your resume is really going to benefit you when it comes to that ATS scan. My colleague Roxanne has just dropped in a link in the chat for a little bit more information about ATS friendliness and working on an ATS friendly resume. I really recommend that everyone check that out, but kind of a brief overview is that the more designed a resume is, where it includes, lots of different colors and logos and graphic images, multiple columns of text, etc., the more likely it is that the ATS will have a hard time scanning and pulling the necessary information out of that resume. And I know that you're all thinking, I'm a design student. I go to a design school. I want to have a designed resume that accurately reflects who I am as a designer and an artist. And I completely understand that. We don't necessarily have to sacrifice design quality for ATS friendliness. We just want to keep in mind what pieces of our resume may not be ATS friendly or may have a harder time through that scan, such as, again, logos or graphic images, and really make sure that we're tailoring our resume as much as we can. So you'll see on the page that Roxanne linked, there are a few different examples of a kind of simplified ATS-friendly version of your resume that you can utilize as you're working through this process. An alternative solution that you have here is to utilize an ATS-friendly version of your resume in the kind of upload section of a digital form for an application, and then include your more designed resume that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing and in line with your identity as a designer and artist in the additional documents section of your application. So you're able to present that raw information for the scan, as well as the designed version that you feel like maybe is a little bit more in line with who you are as a designer. As mentioned earlier, this may not be as much of a concern when you're sending resumes out via email. So if you find yourself more frequently emailing your resume to potential employers, internship providers, then having that designed resume, you're welcome to utilize that as much as you want to. But I always recommend being aware of that, set of ATS friendliness rules and working within those as much as you can. Now, aside from ATS friendliness, let's talk a little bit about these AI-assisted interviews. How can we work well in an AI-assisted interview, given the information that we know about them? First and foremost, again, I'm going to repeat it many times, utilize the keywords. It is pretty likely that most of these AI that are utilizing the interview material that you've submitted, recorded pieces or live pieces, are going to be scanning or trained to pick up keywords that you vocalize in your interview, the same way that an ATS scan is going to pick up keywords from your resume. So thinking through the keywords that are present in the job description and being able to vocalize those in your interview when it's going to be AI assisted is really, really, really beneficial in making that connection for the AI between your skills and experience and what the company is looking for. Second tip for today is pretend that you're talking to a human being. I know that this can sound really hard when you are kind of staring at a recording light on your computer and you know that this is just going into a recorded vault. But what can sometimes happen is we know that we're talking to this, AI tool, maybe rather than a human. We can start to become a little bit less conversational and emotive, and a little bit more robotic or in line with the way that the AI is presenting these questions to us, right? So as much as possible, I really recommend pretending like you're having a conversation with a human person. The way that we have a conversation is very different than the way that we kind of rehearse and speak out a script. And that's a really important tool in interviewing, right? Because an interview is a conversation. So pretend that you're talking to a person, make eye contact the same way that you would if you're talking to a person in an interview. Use the same type of inflection in your voice and the same cadence of your speech, the same speed in which you speak, the same types of words, so that your recorded answers are as they would be, as much as possible, if you were talking to a human being in that interview room as well. Finally, our last recommendation is to speak really clearly and concisely. Now, this is important in any interview scenario to communicate as best as we can in, the limited time that we have in an interview. But this is especially important when our kind of interview recording is being scanned and analyzed by an AI trained to pick out certain things. The more clearly and concisely and effectively that we speak, the better the AI is able to assess and analyze our answers. If we are speaking too quickly or too slowly, if we're speaking very quietly, or we're not enunciating well, this may potentially affect the way that the AI is able to understand what we're saying. And conversely, if we speak very, very clearly, the AI is better able to pick up the words that we're saying, match those to what it's been trained to analyze for, and hopefully move us forward in the next phase of the interview process. This, again, is really, really, really beneficial in general for our interviewing skills and our interviewing process. So if you do want to work on these things, we have many, many, many tools and resources through CPD that you may be interested in, general interview preparation, mock interviews, etc., that everyone could benefit from. But again, I do think that this is especially important when it comes to AI interviewing, to speak clearly, enunciate, and try to present the most kind of verbose version of yourself in that particular setting. So that is that on employer uses for AI. And we're now going to talk a little bit about how job seekers are utilizing AI in their job search. Now, there are many different ways that job seekers can utilize AI in your job search, right? And I wanted to highlight a few big ones and kind of the ways in which these areas can be an effective use of AI implementation in your job search. So the first one is through research. So AI can help you research for your job search in a variety of ways. This can be exploring different career paths, diving into recent news about a company that you're interviewing with, generating questions that you could ask in an informational interview, etc. This research tool is really, really helpful if you have questions about a potential career pathway, you want to know about all of the different options that are available to you based on your degree program, etc. Then we have resumes and cover letters. Job seekers do sometimes utilize AI tools in developing their resumes and cover letters. This can be anything from kind of taking out the keywords from a job description so that they can implement those into their resume, to providing an initial resume or cover letter template that they edit, or reviewing an existing resume to suggest any edits based on the job description, etc. I'm going to be talking about this more in a little bit, but a big recommendation here is to always, always, always make sure that you are editing and providing your own proofread and voice on any information that you receive, any outputs that you get from resume and cover letter information with regard to AI tools, right? We never want to directly take the resume or cover letter that an AI has produced for us and send that out in an application. We always want to make sure that we're using it as an initial tool, maybe a starting point, that we can then edit and work with and turn into our own document that is in our voice, speaking to our skills, and edited by us. And one way that we can also kind of utilize AI and work with our resume is through something called Skill Syncer. Now, there are a number of tools that are similar to this, but Skill Syncer is one that is specifically accessible for free to Art Center students. And it's an AI tool that can be used to kind of comparatively analyze your resume in relation to a specific job or internship. So the way that it works is that you upload a copy of your resume and the job or internship description that you're applying to. You're going to click scan, and it's going to provide you with something called a match report. And that match report kind of provides a bit of analysis on how well does your resume match this description. And I want to specifically state here, it's not, are you a good fit for this role? It is, how well does your resume match the description based on how an ATS system would scan and understand it. Skill Syncer is also going to provide you with some tips and tools and suggestions for making your resume an even better fit than it already is for that particular role. Things like adding in keywords, adding in different skill sets, maybe formatting your resume in a slightly different way so that it scans more effectively. This is a really fantastic tool for anybody who really just wants another pair of eyes on their resume before they send it out in an application. And again, something that you have access to for free as an Art Center student or graduate. Then finally, one of the other ways that job seekers are utilizing these AI tools in their job search is through interview prep. So you can ask an AI things like, what types of questions am I going to be asked in this interview for this industry? Or what are some of the best questions that I can ask in an interview to get a sense of a company's culture and work-life balance? These types of kind of inputs or prompts for an AI can be a really great way to get a good sense of what your interview experience might be, or how to make the most of your interview in an AI or in a setting where perhaps an AI tool isn't being used, but you're meeting directly with a human being. And again, we're covering, a small setting of, or a small selection of the ways in which job seekers are utilizing AI. But know that there are, a lot of different other options here, and that the biggest recommendation that we have is to always make sure that you are editing information that you're receiving from the AI, from your outputs, before it goes out to any individual application or in communication with an employer. So that brings us to our tips and tricks. Again, I've mentioned this before, but edit, edit, edit. Always make sure that you're proofreading and editing any resumes, cover letters, suggested edits to either of those documents that you are sending out when using an AI tool. Something that we hear as a career and professional development office very often is that employers are able to tell when you've utilized an AI to write your resume. We are often able to tell when an AI is used to write a resume or a cover letter. And your employer, your potential employer for a job or an internship, wants to hear your voice. They don't want to hear what an AI has designed for you. They want to hear your voice. So we really, really recommend always make sure that whatever you get from that AI, you're editing, you're proofreading, and you're making your own rather than just sending it right on out. Now, CPD is here to help and support you in that process. We can help you write a resume or a cover letter. The Writing Center at Art Center is also an incredible, incredible tool for working through these types of prompts, editing any information that you already have, and really helping you find and apply your voice to a document like a resume or a cover letter. So know that you have that support here if you do decide to utilize AI as part of that process. And finally, the prompt that you utilize is everything in utilizing AI for your job search. The quality of your prompt is going to directly impact the quality of the results that you get. A poor prompt and not editing your results is not going to provide you with quality materials or quality output and feedback that you receive. But having a prompt that is specific and provides the kind of tool with enough information to give you specific info back is going to be much more beneficial. For example, something like, what interview questions will I be asked versus what are some of the most common interview questions to be asked as a freelance graphic designer? Those two prompts are somewhat similar, but one provides you with a lot more detail and a lot more information for that AI to understand and provide you with results on. So please, please, please make sure if you do decide to utilize AI at any part of your search, make sure that your prompt is strong and able to provide you with, a substantive amount of feedback from that AI. So to wrap everything up, and before I open the floor up to questions today, I just want to reiterate again, AI tools are becoming more and more integrated into the recruiting process at multiple stages. We have those ATS tools. We have these AI-assisted interviews. They are becoming more and more of a reality at multiple phases of the application process and at companies of all sizes. So it's important for us to know how they work in order to effectively work within them. Job seekers, as such, are also utilizing AI tools at multiple phases of their job search process in the same way that employers are. And if you do decide to use an AI, it's really important to know how to utilize it effectively, how to write a strong prompt, how to effectively edit and tailor your results to your voice before you send things out so that you can, again, make the most use of that experience, make the most use of the information that you're getting, and still produce documents or information that are unique and tailored and specific to you as a job seeker and your applications to specific experiences. Now, a couple of options that we have for everyone, whether you're interested in implementing AI into your job search or not, are you just want to get some additional support and feedback on your creative career search. We do have Zoom advising and email reviews available for students and alumni. These email reviews are asynchronous feedback for your resumes and your cover letters. We have amazing resume reviewers who will accept your documents after you upload them, provide you with some feedback, and send it back via email. You don't even have to meet with anybody. You just get that email back with all of the amazing feedback and suggestions. Alternatively, if you would like to meet with somebody, as mentioned, we do offer Zoom advising appointments where you can kind of talk through different phases of your creative career, talk through ATS, how to interact with an AI-assisted interview program, etc. We can support you in mock interview prep, in writing those resumes and cover letters, basically any support that you're looking for. We really, really encourage you to, reach out to us, ask any of those questions anytime that you have them. And the best ways to get in touch with us or to do that, you can always reach out to CPD at careers@artcenter.edu. You can check out our website, artcentercpd.com, which has information, including all of the links that Rox has been pasting into the chat on AI, on interviewing, etc. And the chat also includes a link to sign up for some of those Zoom appointments. And then finally, we also have an Instagram where on a weekly basis, we are posting, unique tips and tricks and information from your peers, from recent grads, from students, as well as upcoming events that we're hosting that we would love for you all to join if you feel like they're going to be a great fit for you. So please stay in touch with us. Please reach out if you have any questions about this or about any other topic available. So with that, I am going to end our recording for the day. And I also want to open up the floor to any questions that anyone has. I know that I ran through a few of these topics fairly quickly, but I want to open up the floor and see if anybody has any specific questions or has interacted with AI in a unique way and wants to share their experience, so that we can talk about it and kind of see what's happening.